exploring the depths, as I mentioned, of arts, culture, experience. And yes, we continue now with my next panel, ladies and gentlemen. And India, of course, has a very rich and diverse tradition of storytelling, as we all know. Please do come on up to my panel. I'm going to be introducing you in just a moment.
You want to sit in the middle?
So the question is, and this is the question we're going to be answering actually in our next session, how is India seizing digital opportunities to become a true creative leader? So that's what we're going to be finding out. And I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Monisha Advani, who's partner, producer, and the CEO of Emmay Entertainment and Motion Pictures. Thank you for being with us. We also have Shweta Bajpai, who's the Group Director for Finserv, Media and Travel at Meta. Thank you so much. And Vipul Agrawal, who is the founder and CEO of Mugafi, also joins us here today. Right, I wanted to throw out my first question. Now, I don't know how many of you have used this on ChatGPT yet, but there's a function where you can put your photo in and there's a trend of Ghibli-style images. I literally did this half an hour ago to make sure I sort of understood exactly what it was. Quite impressive. I mean, 2 seconds and you get this amazing sort of cartoon character image. However, the co-founder has basically come out and said that AI art is actually unethical. It raises a very, very big question, which is what I wanted to lead into. So, is there a place for AI in creative spaces?
Well, maybe I'll go first
yes,
with this
please.
one. I think that there is place for technology, and artificial intelligence is that new tech toy that we are grappling with, we're trying to learn more about in the place of creating content. What's interesting is how empowering it is, because you can literally be 30 minutes before you get onto a platform and you could be experimenting with it and feeling like an artist. Now, the question is not the application of the technology as much as the fact that what are the rules around that application. And I think that because it's a new tech, it's pretty much like when they first invented the car. They weren't sure which side of the road it was going to be driven on, until a rule was formed societally and we agreed that this is how we would drive. And we advocate the fact that if you don't follow the rules, you bear the consequences of it. So I think it's the same thing with technology. It's just that when it's a new toy, which is so democratizing, that it automatically will get that kind of attention.
And that's the thing, it's fun, right? That's the whole point of it, is to, you know, have fun with this all, but is it a threat?
Yeah, given I come from a tech platform, and since the creative person's already spoken, if you think about the whole creative process as a value chain, I think there are parts of the value chain which are fairly repetitive by its nature, right? Think about doing story writing, right? Somebody thinks about the idea, puts the story together, but what if you have to make it into a script? Now that can be a repetitive process that the AI can actually take care of. What if you had different story elements, but there is a way to do editing? You probably don't need a lot of science to put it all together. AI can take part of that. The issues I think that we are facing with the current threat that AI is posing are two. One, would originality go away? Because then things that are developed by AI would actually look fairly alike to each other, right? And the movie industry or the media industry really survives and thrives on originality. So protecting that IP and making sure that compensation for what is human produced and what is AI produced is on a different spectrum will be critical. What will also be important is lack of skills will lead to redundancy, which means people on the creative side also need to embrace the parts of their job that are repetitive and where AI can actually be an enabler rather than a threat. Because if I don't learn AI, then it's much more likely to disrupt me rather than the other way around. So possibly those three things, which is thinking about skilling in a better way, thinking about compensation differentially, and thinking about protection of IP could actually make AI, make the media industry better rather than take something away from it.
And at the end of the day, as people, we always want the easiest route, right? Where we're designed to always go for the easy option. So if you take something away like that, yeah, how do people learn and keep that originality and keep that creative sort of spark alive? But as you mentioned, AI is always meant to be a tool at the end of the day. So Vipul, over to you. What are your thoughts? Is there a space for AI?
So again, you can't escape from any new technology that's coming, right? So we had an internet era. A lot of time, for a very long time, we were like worried that how this is going to disrupt us, and then you have Facebook coming out of there, right? So similarly with AI coming in, and if you look at the West, 65% plus studios are today using AI as a tech while producing movies, producing content. So I think escaping it is just going to delay the success that you can have by using it. Now, there should be a guardrail when you build these technologies. Like, are you focusing completely on a generative AI, or are you focusing it as an assistive technology? I think that's where governments across India, across European nations are started coming in, where they're making a lot of laws that how to safeguard these things. But I think the faster we start using AI as assistive technology, it's going to be better for us to, be more productive and be more successful.
Very well said. Actually, speaking of the government, Shweta, a few months ago, India's Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology set up a committee to discuss AI and deepfakes in particular as one of the key stakeholders. What exactly is Meta doing differently, do you think, to deal with these issues?
Yeah, great question. So as you know, Meta is also the owner and founder of one of the biggest open source models that the world has seen. It's called Llama 4. We actually unleashed our most updated version as of yesterday, which now competes with the most powerful models out there, including DeepSeek. Now, having said that, one of the cornerstones of how we think about AI as a company is two ways. One, we believe no matter whichever AI model companies run or individuals run, their data has to be their own. So an AI model which takes or digests your data and actually makes it their own is not a good idea, as much as it is about making data transparent and totally your own on which simulations really run. So that's the first cornerstone. The second is inclusive and non-biased AI. Now, one big part of how we develop AI is our AI team actually is very gender discriminant, which basically means indiscriminate, which basically means that we have equal amounts of women as well as men who are defining the rules of that model. We have people from different racial ethnicities. We actually have a peer evaluation committee which judges whether the AI model is throwing up answers which might be insensitive to other people. As employees of the company, we actually have an open group where we can show where our AI is actually throwing up wrong answers. So it's amazing to see those two cornerstones come to life in our AI model. Having said that, deepfakes are a clearly big red flag. And in India, we face that far more because obviously as Indians, we are far more smarter in terms of using tech for the wrong things rather than for the right things. The first thing that we are doing right now, and this is something we haven't spoken about in a public forum, is the facial recognition technology. So what that allows us to do is by taking key personalities around which deepfakes are usually formed, use their facial recognition to scan paid ads which might be promoted or getting served to people, which are propagating, let's say, use or getting people to invest in scam schemes and getting them blocked at the source itself. So that's the first thing we are doing, which is using tech in a way that is helping root deepfakes at the start itself. The second thing that we are doing is we are working very closely with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, I4C, as well as METI, to figure out for key banks as well as large institutions, can we create a smaller timeline through which we can root out some of these deepfakes when they are formed. We get close to about 100 escalations every day, just to give you a sense. But we have a human-enabled, within 4 hours kind of turnaround team that is focused on doing the same. The last thing we are doing is in the UK and now in India, we have started a collaboration called FIRE, which is basically a community of sorts that takes all financial institutions, and those are the most prone to deepfakes, as well as scams that happen, and build a community where they inform each other on what are the sources of such scams, and that information is fed back to the
sharing
platform.
that information is very important. I'm a little bit conscious of the time, so quickly over to Monisha. Looking at India specifically, how important is it to really tap into India's cultural heritage and identity, while also, making sure that you're aware of different audience trends and requirements and the evolution of sort of customer needs, I suppose?
Because the customer needs would be to figure out how to use Kama Sutra and AI together, I suppose. That's one way of making India mainstream. But no, very seriously, if you look at the country that we are, and we represent 1/5 of humanity today in population, I think we are extremely underrepresented when it comes to our cultural integration and acceptance within a global forum. And I think that being underserved is one of those bridges that we're going to be able to overcome using technology, using the powers that technology empowers creators and producers, and I think that's going to be very, very important for us moving forward.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, I think it's a good thing, and I think I'm mindful of
I know, yeah, thank you so much,
us.
yeah, thank you. And Vipul, I wanted to continue with this rich tradition of verbal storytelling. How does your type of company keep this alive? And do you think that AI can really ever match that level of immersion that's required really to be able to compete? Because if you think about it, you know, human expression and creativity is so precious.
Yeah, so our idea is not to generate stories from AI. So what we are building is an assistive platform. So in a life of writers, 80% of the work is a lot operational, you know, formatting things, researching on things. If you can automate those things, you can make a writer more productive. So the whole idea at Mugafi is that two things. One is to make the writer's life more productive. So the writer who end up on writing, let's say, 5 movies in their lifetime can do a 50 or a 10 at least. And second is to make sure that more writers emerge, right, who do not have a know-how of screenplays or screenplay writing, but at least have a great stories or oral stories that they've been listening throughout, right? Can they publish those stories through a platform like this, which enhance their writing skills and which helps them publish their own ideas? So the whole thought behind this is that you can't create marvels by just talking in a group of 5 people. You have to have a 5 million writing at the same time to find that one great character which goes global. So if India have to go global, I think every family should have one writer or one character, you know, where it's been thought through, and that's what Mugafi or Ved can do.
Yeah, 100%. As you mentioned, that's a very important point. You know, it's all about productivity and ease of use and doing something, you know, as quickly as possible, and it's all about output and things like that. I wish we had more time to talk, but I cannot thank you enough for being with us. Really interesting conversation. It's going to be so interesting as well to see how this progresses over the next 10 years. We've got to make sure that, you know, AI is very much our assistant at the end of the day. So thank you so much.
Thanks
really
very much.
fantastic to talk to you all. Thank you so
you.
much.